Warning: I cannot legally be held responsible for any negligent actions performed with knowledge gained through this video. This is for educational purposes strictly and not to be abused. Under no circumstances should you try to replicate anything seen in this video unless you are properly trained or have a license to do so. I cannot be held responsible for any injuries of any kind, including death, if you are stupid with the information I give you. Without further ado, let's begin. Alright, everyone. It is I, the Danny, and this is my everything to do with explosives. Be it an angry bomb man from a rhythm game, a mad scientist who nuked the moon,
On the moon! How do you like that, Obama?
your local backyard chemist, an eldritch god of time and death, or a family just wanting to have fun on the 4th of July. This is everything you need to know about explosives. Alright, everyone. The first thing we will be the first thing we will be talking about today is black powder. Now, black powder is one of my favorite explosives, second only to the next one we will cover, but that is for later. Anyway, black powder used to be one of the most common explosives you could find in America. Yeah! But, not anymore, because production of black powder in America has been completely ceased. But there is a small workaround for it. According to the ATF, which is the thing that regulates everything, I'll have to find... Oh, it's the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, but it's just called the ATF. Anyway, according to the ATF, individuals do not need a manufacturer's license if they manufacture black powder for their own personal, non-business use. And the black powder produced is not a commercial product within the complications of the expedition and must be stored in compliance with the appropriate regulations. Basically, for those of you out there like me who don't speak law, you are perfectly okay to manufacture your own black powder as long as you don't sell it and store it properly according to the guidelines of the ATF. Anyway, you might be asking, Danny, how do you make black powder then? Well, let me tell you, my friends. It is as simple as 3 chemicals you can find at a gas station. First things first, charcoal. Now, preferably, I find the best charcoal for black powder is air float charcoal. Air float charcoal dust, specifically. And you're going to want 30 grams of air float charcoal. Now, with that, you're going to want YouTube's favorite element, Kano3, aka saltpeter, which I'm not allowed to say the true name of, or YouTube will strike me down. And finally, you're going to want sulfur, 10 grams of sulfur. Mix that up and you have 100 gram batch of nothing better than black powder. Alright, with that said, make sure you use this responsibly. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Alright everyone, next up we have flash powder. Flash powder is my favorite explosive because of how wild it is. Now, flash powder traditionally is made of KNO3 and aluminum powder. But after doing some research, I find that the most volatile mix for flash powder has to be potassium perchlorate with magnesium at a 65-35 ratio. This causes a massive explosion that is both bright from the magnesium and loud from the aluminum in the magnesium. However, manufacturing flash powder is highly illegal, so under no circumstances should you ever do it, unless you are properly licensed to handle it. Anyway, now is a good time to nerd out about what makes explosives explode, and specifically flash powder. So the reason that flash powder and black powder and all this stuff explodes is because it takes something flammable like a pyrophoric metal such as, I don't know, aluminum or magnesium, and basically it pumps a bunch of oxygen into it. So instead of slowly burning as the oxygen reaches it, it all burns at once. With black powder and flash powder, that's what the KNO3 is used for in black powder and the potassium perchlorate in flash powder. Both of those elements are made of an absurd amount of air, which allows it to fuel the fuels in the two explosive powders and most explosives. That being said, an explosion itself usually is defined as an outward pushing force of energy. Well, now that I've sufficiently nerded out about flash powder, let's move on to the next topic. Alright everyone, listen up. So here's what's happening. I only have 15 minutes to do this and I got a lot more of explosives to go through. So instead of giving everyone a section, we're gonna rapid fire this. 3, 2, 1, go! Alright, here we go. This is the third time recording this. First, my microphone had a voice changer on. Second off, my entire computer crashed. So let's go. First things first, fireworks. I guarantee all of you have seen and or lit off a firework. They're the most common type of explosive easily. Most of our fireworks are imported from Japan because Japan knows how to have fun. Anyway, an explosive such as a firework is usually a cardboard casing filled with black powder and firework stars or flash powder. After the fuse is lit and it goes into the powder, the powder ignites and explodes, but due to it being contained, all that energy builds up until it can sufficiently crack open the case and leave nothing but an awesome explosion. Most common types are easily mortar shells and firecrackers. Moving on. Next we have nitroglycerine. Nitroglycerine was invented by Alfred Nobel. Yes, Nobel is a Nobel Prize. And it was made by mixing nitric acid, sulfuric acid, and a glycerine together. And the hope was it would be a blood-thinning medicine, but it was highly unstable, and even dropping it on concrete could cause a massive explosion. However, it should be known that touching this highly dangerous chemical will seep into your blood and it will thin your blood, but it'll do it to such an extent that it will give you a crippling and debilitating headache for a long period of time. Anyway, most of you probably know nitroglycerine because of its inclusion in things like
Frick, what is it called? Alright, dynamite. Anyway, moving on to warfare. Now, warfare can encompass several different things, such as grenades, basically fireworks, but instead of shooting out colorful pieces of burning black powder known as stars, it shoots out burning pieces of metal that are very, very deadly. Other common ones are IEDs, improvised explosive devices, and C4. On this thing, also trinitrophenylene, aka the world's most famous explosive, TNT, is also technically under warfare due to it being, well, TNT, a high explosive. But also, just to nerd out a bit, technically, Witty from the Friday Night Funkin' mod versus Witty is an improvised explosive device due to him being a failed government experiment. And finally, we have nuclear warfare. Now, nukes, well, this one, basically, same as others, a reinforced casing that has a bunch of energy built up into it until the casing can no longer hold it, and all that energy expands outward rapidly. But most of it happens due to nuclear fusion and nuclear fission. For example, the Tsar Bomba, the world's biggest nuke, created by who else than the Soviet Russians. The entire casing was made of metal, but inside it was entirely styrofoam, besides a giant core, a core of explosives surrounding a small radioactive core, and a big radioactive cylinder. After it reached a certain height, the explosives went off, which caused the core to melt down, and after it melted down, it caused the styrofoam to turn into plasma, which caused the other core to melt down, which caused all this energy to build up, release, and explode. Alright, now that I've given you pretty much most of everything you will ever need about explosives, well, at least a basic summary, I want to take a second to talk about safety with these things. Explosions are no joke, and they can be very dangerous. I can't tell you how many videos I find online of people telling horror stories about how they lit a firework and they held it in their hand and blew their finger off, or videos of people shooting each other with Roman candles. This just isn't safe. Explosions, when powerful enough, can destroy and level cities. Look at nukes. Or heck, a recent example from 2020. Look at the Beirut explosion. In this, a warehouse carrying several tons of ammonium nitrate caught fire, and it lit off an explosion so big it nearly leveled the part of the city it was in. So many lives were lost, and too many were injured. The point I'm trying to make is explosions, fireworks, nukes, C4, dynamite, nitroglycerin, TNT, flash powder, none of it is a joke, and this entire video is specifically for educational purposes. Under no circumstances should you ever try to replicate anything that you see in this video. Most of the footage was got by trained professionals. The only thing I would recommend doing, and I'd only recommend doing it with major safety precautions, is creating black powder, because it's the one explosive you legally can manufacture. But even then, I made a batch of black powder and it didn't work, so I left it on my front porch for a year and a half, and when I was lighting some fireworks around the 4th of July, one flew into that batch of black powder I thought was a dud, but it lit the whole thing on fire and caught my front porch on fire. The point is, you can never be too safe with explosives, and I would hate to make this video for my class and then stumble in one day and figure out someone used the knowledge in this video and got themselves killed. So please, from one crazy explosion lover to another, don't be the next newsletter. Okay, well, that's about all I can say for this video. I'm just about out of time. I hope you all enjoyed this knowledge, and remember, use your knowledge for the power of good. not for the power of explosive evil. До свидания, everybody. До свидания.